generally in other places is 1p, 2p, 10p, gradual increase. But because their money is running out, Iran is a big oil producer, big gas producer. I mean, you shouldn't be paying the same prices as you pay, say, in England, because there's plenty of it there. And there is no cost of transportation. Hence, people came out. In fact, one of the ways that they demonstrated was they blocked the motorways with their cars. So they came and they blocked the motorways, the roads. They wouldn't go, just beaming their whole sign of protest. What happened again? Machine guns came out once more. So the logic, if you like, they use, their logic comes from machine guns. And again, some of these Amnesty quite brightly has recorded many of these killings. And I've taken some of these pictures, in fact, from Amnesty site or from other human rights groups. But as I said again, these are the people that we know they have either executed or shot at directly. Many also have disappeared, many are in prisons, and the story still goes on. He was a journalist operating from France. And he was not a main broadcaster by any means. He was a one-man band, and he was using mainly Instagram and other free social media to spread his anti-government slogans. What they did was they tricked him to go to Baghdad in Iraq, where they've got free hands, and then he was kidnapped from there, taken to Iran, tried, executed. And he was a very happy guy. He was one of those that would always be smiling, unlike many of these commentators, and he would speak his mind. But again, it shows that to the extent that these people go to silence freedom of expression. Her name is Masih, and she has been many times subject either of kidnapping or assassination. And the recent one was only about 2 weeks ago in US. They wanted, because she's very outspoken, she kind of got lots of following in Iran because she promotes freedom of women and freedom of expression. They've tried to silence her now many times.
But she's still alive.
She is, yeah, she is alive. Yeah, she's going to be, I think, in Berlin next week in a rally. A footballer, I mean, what would you say? A footballer, he plays football, but he had to leave Iran only a few months ago because he spoke against the regime. They threatened him, and he had to escape, and he's in either Canada or US. I'm not quite sure. He was a wrestler, which during that 2019 uprising, he basically allegedly said he's beaten up or done something to one of these guards or policemen. They executed him to set an example. Do people know what this picture relates to? Obviously, it relates to something crashing. Pardon?
Was it a plane?
Plane crash. Do you remember what it was about?
Was it the US?
It was a Malaysian flight shot down in Georgia. Is that right?
Ukrainian plane. No, it was a Ukrainian plane which was carrying it. It took off from Tehran airport to go to Canada. And this was the night that the previous night that Iranian general called Soleimani during Trump time, he was hit by a drone in Baghdad airport. Iranian retaliated by bombing the American embassy, and America under Trump said they would retaliate. So the Iranian authority mistook this plane for an American plane. So it shot it down as it was taking off the runway on the Iranian airport, Tehran airport. But then for a few days, they were denying it. And they were saying, no, they haven't done it. It crashed. First they said it crashed itself. Then they said American has hit it. So many other stories. Then it became known that by mistake, they hit the plane. Over 240, I'm not sure about the exact, but over 200 people died on that plane. Okay, again, we see images, pictures that unfortunately, sadly, are not with us. And again, we have to thank the international community that has been able to echo their message outside Iran. Okay, I am sure by now many of you which have been following the news know that this latest one happened as a result of this Kurdish woman, 22 years of age, was on holiday and then arrested by morality police and beaten and killed. But then they denied. They say she had some heart problem herself. She had some cardiac arrest and she died. But anyhow, it became known that some images came out that showed she's been, in fact, beaten up. And now this slogan, which became the main slogan of this uprising, is called Woman, Life, Freedom. And if you compare this progressive, if you like, slogan with the slogan of the 1979 revolution, it was more to say, I think one slogan says, the only party is the party of God. That was the slogan, you know. Whereas this slogan, I think, demonstrates that this is a different one, different scenario altogether. And I will tell you a little bit about it shortly. These are some of the youngsters. These are under 16, lots and lots of people who died in the recent one. They were not even 16. So if you notice at the beginning of my slide, I was showing people that they were generals, ex-officials, older people, you know, leaders of some sort. But now these are just young kids that are very outspoken. I mean, I've listened to her many times. She's
Salam guys.
yeah. Instagram celebrity. And you wouldn't know anything. Another kid of 16 years age. And her whole personality is against the system, the whole ideology, what she is. And there are millions of like her. And in fact, I listened to her, watched her videos. In fact, for her age, she's so mature, she's so articulate about what she wants, what she sees as problems in Iranian society today. But she was a victim. Again, she was shot in the street, and they made it again as though it was an accident. Okay, we go to the next, I think, slide. Okay, I mean, you see for yourself How old would you say these people are? You know, but they were also charged with the same Islamic law as the generals 44 years ago. Their crime was, one is called being anti-God and spreading corruption on earth. One thing we saw this time, which was very different to the previous, I think, uprising, is that the Iranian people outside, the diaspora, started uniting. Not like previous times where there was muted demonstration. These were now united demonstrations. And in London, for example, every week you get 5,000, 10,000. But the largest one, in fact, was in Berlin, which about 100,000 people attended from all over the world. So I don't think there is any world leader now that doesn't know that the Iranian people do not want this system. Everybody knows that. So another, I mean, this shows, I don't know, do people know this picture? Do you know what happened? Yeah. I mean, she was a climber. I mean, this woman was climbing in, I don't know, South Korea, not North Korea, but South Korea, somewhere, some competition. And for solidarity reason, she took her headscarf, to say that she's also pro-change. And she was arrested when she arrived, and her family was threatened. She was asked to apologize. She said, oh, it was a mistake. It suddenly fell off, you know, those kind of things. Anyway, this is in the Kurdish region of Iran. And despite the government disallowing ceremonies for burial ceremonies, people turned out. And that shows the change. That shows that people are, I think it's quite a different times we are going through now. And I will explain what, hopefully. This is in London, one of the demonstrations in Parliament Square, and these are Afghani girls, which are again in solidarity with Ukrainian demonstrators. They were all in one group in Parliament Square demonstrating. This is in Trafalgar Square, and as you can see, this is the old Iranian flag. And this is become the symbol of change. People don't want the Islamic flag. And when I showed you the Ukrainian plane that was shot down as it was taking off, in fact, they were on the plane. Well, no, he wasn't on the plane, but the wife and daughter were on the plane, and unfortunately they were killed. And that chap organized the demonstration, and this is in Berlin. And he had become one of the leaders of this opposition. And he was able to mobilize people in Berlin. And if you remember earlier on, I showed you a picture of a showman. I said he was one of the most important people, and they killed him in his own apartment in Bonn. I took this photograph myself. This is one of my photos. And the reason I took this photograph, because I myself really was one of his supporters. And when I saw a few young women are carrying his photograph, I went forward and first of all asked whether I could take a photo, and they said yes. And then I asked them, how do you know this guy? Because most likely you were not born when this chap was killed. And their response was, we love him because we've seen all his videos on YouTube and we've listened to him and he was telling the truth. And this is again shows that if you are telling the truth, people would respond and people would know the difference.